Insomnis is an indie horror game developed by Path Games and published by Gamera Nest in January of 2022. The primary gameplay elements are a first-person view, exploration, and puzzle solving. A call from his grandfather's lawyer brings the protagonist, Joe Castevet, to his recently deceased grandfather's manor, a place he hasn't been to in quite some time. So it comes as a bit of a shock to him when he finds himself the rightful heir to all of his Grandpa Roman's estate, especially since, in spite of several unanswered postcards he sent, Joe hasn't heard from his grandfather in years. In fact, the lack of reciprocity from Grandpa Roman has left Joe more than a little bitter and spiteful toward the fellow. Maybe his heart softens a little, or maybe he just wants to make sure the old fucker's dead. Either way, Joe shows up at the manor he's just inherited only to discover that some seriously messed up shit took place here, if multiple child ghosts weren't a big enough tip-off. And of course, he's going to get to the bottom of it. Let's start with the positives for this one, because this is going to be my first mostly negative review. On a nuts and bolts level, the use of light and darkness is really quite good. Exploring the manor, things can get just dark enough that the meager flashlight we have just seems barely sufficient. Additionally, the manor itself looks dilapidated and neglected, which fits quite nicely with the narratives. The puzzles are also challenging, though certainly not as mind-bending as some of the other games I played. Like, I never encountered a moment where I just had no idea where to go. And part of that is because the developers did a good job in terms of pacing how much of the manor is accessible to the player at any given time. So even when things were more on the cryptic side, there were a very limited amount of spaces to re-examine. Finally, the writing is pretty strong. Is it original or totally compelling? No, but it does its job. As I uncovered more about how the various child ghosts died, I found myself eagerly searching for the next clue around every corner, and things just kept getting more insane. Like, I was fascinated to uncover the unspeakable things that had happened to the child ghosts before their untimely and unjust demise. Aside from these positives, I found the experience overall to be pretty lackluster. Unlike the other recent titles I played, this game really didn't have a very interesting soundscape to augment the atmosphere of horror. I could tell that there was some thought and effort put into the various noises and songs, but they all just came off as cheap imitations of what could have been, as if the sounds the devs wanted to capture weren't fully realized. There were moments that could have been that much creepier had the soundscape been more effective. I also didn't really care about our protagonist all that much. We were meant to, as he is the grandson of our chief villain. It's not like he's just some nosy investigative journalist we can conveniently paste ourselves onto. We're meant to sympathize with Joe and care about his damaged relationship with his now-deceased grandfather. But the writers just don't give us enough of a real person to work with. The devs also describe the protagonist's main conflict in the game as follows. Unravel the secrets of Insomnis and fight against your own destiny in a story full of intrigue and horror. I especially take issue with the last part. Fighting against your own destiny in no way bore any relevance on the plot or character developments in the game, and in fact this theme did not rear its ugly cliche-ridden head until the very final tail-end moment of the game. The devs did no heavy lifting to earn the presence of such a theme, and it came off as a bit of an afterthought to up the stakes in this game without doing any creative work. Insomnis has a lot of promise, but it misses the mark. My playthrough took me about an hour and a half, and for $14.99 on Steam, that just isn't worth it.